Guys, just arrived in Nice and flew in from Paris, and we're gonna take an interesting ride over to Monaco. All right, got my bags. We're heading over to the chopper. Yeah, so that's good. So, can I sit in the front? Oh, thank you. Hi everybody, how are you? My name is Dan Dulac and welcome to my channel. I'm building a V10 powered Ultima Evolution convertible. This is episode number 48, and man, what an episode this is gonna be. We're actually gonna take this car, hopefully for its very first test drive. How that test drive goes, you're gonna have to stick around and see how it turns out. You may have noticed at the beginning of this video, my short little helicopter ride from Nice to Monaco. I was in Monaco for a work trip recently. And if you ever get a chance to visit Monaco, do it. What an amazing place. I get a chance to walk the Formula One circuit there on the streets. And man, it brought a whole new respect and meaning to what those drivers do with those cars on that circuit. Absolutely mind-blowing. So anyway, we've got a lot to cover on this video. Before we try to get this car on its very first test drive, I've got some pots and pans to finish up, a little bit of wiring. We're gonna fit some body panels. Had some challenges there, which you'll also see in this video, but lots of great progress on this one. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. All right guys, we're getting ready to fit this dash. I've got all the holes pre-drilled. Still got some holes to drill once we get the front canopy in place, but this thing is ready to rip. Let me show you what I got, and then I'm gonna go either get my son, my daughter, my wife, somebody back at the house, bring them over, and we'll get this thing fitted up. So as you can see, I pre-drilled all these holes. These I'll use as guides to drill into the chassis once I get this fitted up there. All the holes along the front are in. I've got the washer fill hose here, a little hole for some wire pass-throughs, and then of course the mounting for the washer fluid reservoir as well as the brake fluid reservoir, and similar on this side. All the holes are all pre-drilled here on the side, ready to go. So we've got the interior all done up. I've got the heater hoses installed, ready to go. There's wire loom all laid out, cleaned up, ready to go. I've got my charger termination sockets there all ready to go. So I think we're ready to fit this thing in. I've got the side splash panels installed here. Again, there'll be rivets that go all along here to secure. And up underneath, let's see if I can show you. Up underneath, all the rivets are in place there. And then I'll just seal this off with some of the panel bond. And then that will be good to go. Similar on this side as well. It's all kind of glued in place or panel bonded in place for now, rivets on the bottom. So we are ready to apply this guy, get it fitted, do some drilling, and it'll be ready to fit, hopefully for the last time. So let's do it. All right, guys, well, the front is on permanent. You can see a bunch of rivets in place along the sides, the front, and she is on there. I even took the liberty of putting the washer container and the brake fluid reservoir on there, and it is starting to shape up here. What a difference that makes. Starting to look like a real car now. I am super, super excited. Got my side marker light wires here ready to put the markers in. Power mirrors wires there. I've started to assemble the dash, put the steering wheel on permanent, the steering column, it's a removable wheel. I do have to extend the kill switch wires here a little bit. It's a little bit too short to reach the hole up there. So that's a pain in the butt, but easy to do. I put some polyurethane sealer here along the edges. I taped them up first, put the sealer, then peeled the tape, makes it nice and clean. So this, all this along this area, even down here, is sealed up where the coolant tube passes through. So no water or anything gets in there. So it's weather tight now. And got my battery posts here. I still got to crawl under there and hook up the cables to these posts, but that's easy to do once I do some stretching here before I climb in there upside down in the footwell. It's coming together real nice. I'm really, really happy with how this is coming out. So on to the next thing. All right, we got the doors on here. Driver's side in. I just put the passenger side on as well. Let me show you where we're at. We do have a minor issue here. I don't know where I went wrong, but let me show you first the driver's door. As you can see, driver's door looks good. The gap's pretty good actually, without really any adjustment. The side pod is sticking out here a little bit, but I haven't riveted it in yet, so I can push it in and adjust it. I can also adjust the door so it twists out a little bit, but man, that's pretty good. So no issue with the driver's door, but I got an issue with the passenger door. It does have to be set back a little bit more, but the body gaps look about the same on the driver's side, but check it out. That won't even close. Barely hitting on the pin, but not enough on the pin to latch, so that ain't gonna cut it. I don't know what, because here's the main alignment stud. This is all the body work is aligned when the factory aligns. This is done right here, and that's in the perfect spot. Same on the other side, so that lets me know that the fore and aft adjustment of this side pod and this bulkhead and the rear clam is in the right spot. And again, this is sitting on the two studs. There might have been some adjustment fore and aft there, but I think that's maybe where I went wrong, is even though I aligned it, again, on the alignment pin, clearly this must have slid back a little bit more. I don't know, about 5 mil is all I need. So I'm gonna try and put some spacers under here in between the pivot arm and space this out. The studs are actually long enough where I could put a couple of spacers in there. Only problem with that is I'm gonna have to balance the gap between the front edge of the door and the rear edge of the door. So that's a little bit of an issue. I mean, worst case, I could body work this and extend this out a bit. Not ideal, but not the end of the world, I suppose, to get it to fit. So that's the only thing I can think of is this front canopy. That side, the driver's side, is fine. It's this side, maybe it had to come back, I don't know, 2 or 3 mils would have done it. But again, it's sitting flush. The front of this is sitting flush up against the front bulkhead here, so I really don't know. I don't know. So anyways, we'll work it. We'll figure it out. Not the end of the world, but not ideal. Because again, this was the pre-fit, the factory pre-fit, all these body panels. So if you remember back in episode 1, all the body panels came attached to the chassis and the fit was obviously perfect. So something happened during the build. Don't know what. But we've got to address this. So probably it might be a combination of some spacers on the hinge to push this back a little, and then some body work just to fill in the remaining bit of the gap. I don't know. I don't know. All right, I measured the gap at the back edge of the door, just behind the release handle, the release knob there. It's 6 mil, and at the same location here, I'm looking at right about 10 mil, so 4 millimeters. This has to come back. Not a lot, not a big deal, I suppose. It is gonna create a bigger gap here up front. It's gonna be a balancing act for sure, but we'll see how it goes. Not the end of the world. Anyways, the good news is the doors are on, so that's a big deal. And I'll go back to the drawing board and figure out how I'm gonna fix this door. All right, I'm over here at my mini lathe. I'm gonna make some spacers, some 4 mil spacers. So I've got this one I just made already in my spare parts bin. I found this little insert. I've got 3 more that I found. So I'm just machining off this lip and then reducing the length by about another millimeter. So that's what I'm doing over here. And we'll get these machined out. Then we'll put these on. I think there's enough thread on the studs where this will work on the door hinge, and we'll see what that does. So let's get after it.
Driving
All right, well, off camera, I refitted the door with the spacers in it. And good news is the door latches now. And the rear gap is exactly the same as on the driver's side. But, and by the way, the bottom gap looks nice and flush. But as expected, the front gap is a little big now. The gap here is fine. This is fine, I could deal with that. But this, I'd like it to be the same as this. So again, that's probably a good 2 or 3 millimeters. And I'm thinking I could just do some body work, put a new bull nose on there, blend it in. This car is gonna get wrapped, so it's not like I need to worry about the gel coat. I think that's my only option here. I don't know how else to adjust the bodywork. The door is the only thing I can move. Everything else is permanently riveted down, so I think a little bodywork on here wouldn't be too bad. I only need probably 3 millimeters to close that up to match the driver's side. So anyways, is what it is. We'll keep it going here and keep with the progress. All right, what I'm doing here is I'm getting ready to make an extension for my electronics cover plate. I made this aluminum plate, gosh, way back early on in the build. It's made out of 1/8 inch aluminum, welded it together. It bolts to the front bulkhead on the passenger side and acts as a footrest, but also protects all the electronics, the Motec and all the wiring and so forth, the wiring loom that's there on the bulkhead. I made a cutout template here, just a piece of cardboard. And what I'm gonna do is just extend this out a little bit, kind of like so. And what this will do is this will protect the throttle pedal. So the throttle pedal's kind of set back in here. I'll show you in a minute. And this will just give me some extra protection so the passenger foot doesn't accidentally go over and hit the pedal there. So let me bring this over to the car and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Goes something like that, and then you can see the throttle pedal is almost even with the plate here. So to protect the passenger from accidentally hitting their foot over in the throttle pedal, I'm just going to make a little extension here that I just showed you, and that will prevent foot from going over there. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to cut it up, weld it on, repaint it, and then we can install it. One of the other things I need to test is my transmission control. So Again, I'm using this control mechanism from the Huracan, and I've got it wired in. If you remember, many episodes ago, I had to reverse engineer the OEM wiring harness to figure out how that mated to the transmission controller module. So that's all wired in, ready to go. That's important for this test drive, obviously, to see if it'll go into gear. But ultimately, the long-term solution is I'm going to reverse engineer the signals on that and then program my rotary switch. So park manual, reverse. As you can see, it's the same on there. Park manual, reverse. So I'm hopefully via CAN bus going to figure out the appropriate ID signals and program this to do the same thing as that. And then of course, this mounts on my carbon center console. So in the meantime, we're just going to use this, make sure we can test it. Once it confirms it works, then we'll reverse engineer it and get that rotary controller in place. So one more thing down before we get this thing on the road for the very first time. Wow guys, today is a monster day. We are gonna get this car on the road for the very first time, and I gotta tell you, I'm a tad bit nervous for sure, but I am super excited. This has been, gosh, well over 3 years and ongoing. I cannot believe it. In fact, it'll be 4 years in February since we started this project. So, man, it's getting there. Today is the day. So I've got a few things I've gotta do. I gotta check the tire air pressure. I've got to brake clean the brake rotors. I left the oily film on them during the build just so they didn't flash rust over the last 3 to 4 years. As we were doing this build, I'm gonna take the rear clam off as well to do the test drive, so we will go in full go-kart mode here when we get this out on my street. And I've got a few other things to take care of as well before we get this thing on the road for the very first time. So big day, guys. I cannot wait. So let's get to prepping this car for its very first test drive. Picked up these. Can never be too safe. One for the house, one for the garage. 10 pounders. Never be too safe. All right, let's fire this baby up. Get her warmed up. This temperature, about 90, 95 degrees Celsius. That's operating temperature. Oh, no, it's shaking.
little foot action down underneath there.
Alright, I got my gear position here.
Alright.
Right there, it's in park right now. As soon as I put my foot on the brake, hit this, reverse, you should see it go in reverse. Right here. Ready?
Yep. There it is.
There's reverse. I ain't going in reverse. This park. This drive. Huh. It almost wants to go. It's like. Well, guys, that's a little bit of a bummer. As you saw, I go put it in gear. I could hear the transmission and the engine kind of bog a little bit like it's going into gear, but it just wouldn't go. I put a little throttle input, no go. It did inch forward just slightly, so it's almost like it's a clutch issue. So what I think is going on here, because I changed the mechatronic to a brand new unit from a 2015 Huracan, again, one that does not have the immobilizer, electronic immobilizer, I think it's back to its factory default, and I need to set up the clutch adaptation. I've never done this on this car or any other car before for this matter, so I don't know if I can do this with the VAG tool or not. I don't know, so I gotta do some research. But man, the car runs, she runs good. I just was hoping to get this thing on the road today, do a little test drive, but like everything else, one step at a time, we'll figure it out, and we'll do it again. So guys, until then, hopefully next video, we get this thing on the road. I'm fighting the weather here in the Northeast. Snow's coming December. We've had no snow yet, so fingers crossed it holds off until I get this thing figured out. We get this thing on the road for a test drive before winter season sets in permanently here in New England. So guys, until next time, we'll see you then. So as I was producing this video, I found in the workshop manual the following page as it relates to the mechatronic in the transmission. I think I'm onto something, and one of the reasons why the car won't move when I put it into gear. So check this out. So here's a printout of the factory service manual. This is when you change out the mechatronic unit. It says, after installing, you have to activate it. And then this is with, I presume, the Otis software. This is the factory Audi diagnostic tester tool. But basically it says to go through this various tests and go through and activate and follow the test procedure. I don't know what this test procedure is. I'm gonna try and look through the VCDS software and see if I can do this, activate it through that software, but I think this is a lead, so we're gonna try and get this going. Hopefully in the next video, I've got the solution.